Hello friends, Adam here with FED. I asked you guys a couple days ago what your Fire Emblem Engage questions are. Anything goes. Of course, this is pre-release. The game isn't out yet, so obviously I don't know a lot of these things for sure, but we have a good guess on a lot of stuff, so I thought we would talk about it. Also, I've gotten some complaints about the audio levels in my videos. I hope today is a little better. I tweaked it, and it should be good now. I did some tests, and if it's not good, then I really need to fix something because I don't know what's wrong at that point. Anyways, we're just going to go through. We got 47 comments. We're going to try and do as many of these as we can in a efficient, timely manner. And we're going to have a good time, hopefully. So, Professor Provolone. I know very little about the Fire Emblem series, but I've been playing Three Houses for about 20 hours, ever since I got it for Christmas. Been enjoying it a lot, so once I finish replaying through the other routes / DLC, I'd like to explore this series more, and Engage seems like a natural next place to go. However, from my understanding, it's an anniversary title with reference to other parts of the series. Do you think Engage will alienate players like myself, or is it a good pickup? Obviously hard to say, but if I had to guess, there's going to be a very, very standalone story, and anything that is like a nod to previous games will just be for people who have played it, and it's not going to detract from your experience. If anything, it's probably just going to make you more interested in who these characters are. You know, Marth, Sigurd, Celica, all that. So maybe you'll have motivation to go play their games. I do worry about them maybe spoiling some major plot points from their games, but hopefully they don't do that too bad. Anyways, I would just say pick it up. If you're interested in Fire Emblem, the next game is probably a good place to go. But if you don't want to do that and you want to play some of the other games to learn about these characters, I would look into it. You know, I love every game in the series, even the ones I kind of hate. So, good places to go would be like Awakening, Echoes is probably a good place to go after Three Houses, Fates. Those three are pretty readily available right now. But then also the GBA games. Binding Blade, Blazing Sword, and Sacred Stones are a good place to go as well. All right, Mr. Schnazzy says, do you think they're going to have any unique ideas to make harder modes harder, or is it just going to be more enemies with higher stats again? It's probably just going to be enemies with higher stats and dumb skills. I think look to Conquest for what that hard mode, that lunatic mode was. It's probably going to be something like that. I see a lot of parallels between Engage and Fates. So I'm fairly confident in saying that's what it's going to be. I don't know. I can't think of any other unique ideas. I'm not a game developer, so it's hard to say. The only thing that I could say is like changing enemy formations to make them more challenging to tackle, especially with the break mechanic being a thing. Having to work around the break, like enemies breaking you would be interesting, but we'll see. We'll see. But honestly, it's probably just going to be like the Fate style where enemies just get inflated stats and different skills. Okay, Dun Diddly. Do you think grinding and farming resources will be as necessary as it was in Three Houses? Or will Somniel be a resource you can skip, sort of like the Tower of Volney? For those who don't know, the Tower of Volney is in Sacred Stones. It's basically just like endless, unlimited grinding you can do there. As soon as it's unlocked, you can just level up your characters like crazy if you want. I hope. My inclination is to say it's not going to be 100% necessary because like the My Castle stuff in Fates wasn't. But after Three Houses, I might be a little scarred because yes, you can beat the game without the monastery. That's been proven by some people, but it's not enjoyable or fun to do it that way. You know, be maddening without it. I have a feeling that you're going to be putting yourself at a significant disadvantage to the enemy by not using all of the resources at your disposal. That could I be totally wrong on that? And the game's kind of bounced around people wanting to skip it, sure, but again, after Three Houses, I can't imagine that they would make all this side extra content that isn't like directly impacting your gameplay. So we'll see. I'm gonna say that if you skip it, you're just gonna make the game way harder than it needs to be, but maybe you can. All right. M.E. Vox. Besides Alir, which character/characters are you going to be in your first playthrough party based on what you know about them so far? I really like Lapis. She's the pink-haired girl. I think Lapis looks cool. Diamond, I don't know, Diamant. It's like Diamond, you know that guy? I like that guy a lot. I think he looks really cool. I'm always a big fan of big sword guy. That can also, he turns into big axe guy too, which is fun. I have a feeling I'll be using Vander quite a bit. I'm a big fan of beards. Other than that, no one's really stood out to me too much. For now, I'm going to leave it at that. All right. Eli Crew 36. In regards to character customization, in your opinion, should Engage follow a linear class progression like FE6, 7, and 8, where, for example, a mage becomes a sage or a mage knight, or more open, a more open but still restricted promotions tree like Awakening and Fates with second heart and partner seals, or 3 houses system of complete class freedom? So I think that we kind of already know what Engage has. And I think it's kind of a mix between Awakening and 3 houses. It looks pretty open, but there are certain classes that characters are like predisposed to go into, like that are they're more prepared for. But I think you're going to be able to, through like supports with emblem rings and whatever else, raise a certain weapon ranks or things like that, or become more proficient with certain weapons to move into whatever class you want. That's kind of what the Twitter posts and stuff read like, but I don't know if that's exactly how it's going to work. If I had to guess, it's going to be a combo of Awakening and 3 houses, though. I think it's going to be pretty open, but with like more restrictions than 3 houses had. All right, from Anna. Based on the revealed abilities of each emblem ring, how would you rank them power-wise? I'm going to do a video on this once we get Micaiah announced. Micaiah is the only one we haven't seen yet. But just off the top of my head, I think Lucina looks pretty good. Or really good, honestly. I think Roy has opportunity to be really good as the guaranteed miracle stuff is kind of cool. I'm not as big on the just deals a bunch of damage rings. Marth and Lynn are kind of disappointing to me. I'm more interested in like Byleth is probably going to be really good with the super dance. I think who else? I'm trying to think. The extra move on Sigurd's cool. I don't know how insane that's going to be, though. Warp with Celica has opportunity to be busted as heck, but that's another one that we just aren't sure. Just going to depend on how the maps are designed and how strong enemies are. Because if you're able just to warp in the middle of a map and just like take on a bunch of enemies, yeah, that's going to be pretty sick. Right, so she might be good. Or if it's just like, if everything's like kill boss, then yeah, warp Ragnarok to kill boss is going to be really good. But we'll see. Okay. Vanguard Commander. How big or small the map design do you think? How big or small do you think the maps will be? And what kind of playstyle do you want to try out in this game? I'm excited to see how far you can push the speed of the playthrough with the use of emblem rings and stuff. I think it's going to be really cool with that. As far as play style and map design, I have no idea. From what we've seen, it looks to be kind of in line with like, I don't know, honestly, it looks sort of in line with like, again, a Fates size. I think it's a very similar game to Fates from a design perspective in that way, but we'll see though. You're going to see, I've been saying that a lot, but you'll see though. Morkatna says, do you like having avatar characters in Fire Emblem? I personally don't, but I do hope we get a female protagonist in the next Fire Emblem game. Playing as a character rather than an avatar can give them more personality. I think avatars are cool and they're here to stay, so might as well get on the bandwagon, right? I think avatars... I almost prefer the more open-ended avatar, like the Robin or the Chris avatars, than the kind of limited ones that we have with like Shez and... Byleth and Corrin. I don't know. Maybe even less Corrin, more just like Shez and Byleth. I wanted them to be like, I'd rather, if they're going to be avatars, you might as well have them be like ultra customizable is my thing, as far as the way they look, sound, and all that. Capay. With all of the new gameplay upgrades and balances to the system with break, smash, heavy weapon disadvantage, that's good pun there, by the way, and armor knight immunity to breaks, etc. How do you analyze how you will approach a lunatic / maddening no rings mode with less with these core gameplay mechanics, and how fun will it be for you? Yeah, I'll definitely do I can't imagine I won't do a no rings run at some point on the channel, right? That just seems like a pretty obvious challenge to go for. And it looks like Armor Knights are going to be kind of important for it, because it's going to honestly just be a little more turtley when you play with no rings, if I had to guess. So I think the breaks are going to be important. The disadvantage weapons, or the heavy weapons that make it so you always attack second, but they cause a smash, I think those are going to be less good, because in Fire Emblem, when you play on higher difficulties, it's like if you look at Three Houses Maddening or FE12 Reverse Lunatic, it's really important to avoid taking damage, obviously, but like even more so there. So either it depends on how beefy Armor Knights are going to be, and their immunity to break is really nice, right? So if they're really tanky, then Armor Knights are going to be at a premium, but it might be archers are the way to go, right? Archers tend to be the way to avoid combat, right? So I don't know. If I had to guess, it'll be really turtly, because a lot of the rings do encourage a faster play style. And by faster, I just mean like more of a push than a wait and see what the enemy does. But I do think it'll be fun. I think it'll be a fun challenge regardless. I love Fire Emblem, so I rarely have a bad time playing it. All right, Crazy Bit. Thoughts on... Oh, sorry, Crazy BLT, not Crazy Bit. That makes more sense with your profile picture being a sandwich. Crazy BLT. Thoughts on 3D models being used instead of illustrations for dialogue. It's a change for the series that I don't necessarily want to be the norm. Although I didn't really care for how Three Houses did it, right? I want to go back to... My personal favorite is Path of Radiance and Radiant Dawn, where like their mouths moved, right? Or the GBA games where their mouths moved while they talked and they like blink and stuff. So it was like it almost felt more lively that way, and I really like I just like the good drawn art of characters. 3D models they look fine. I think people are hating on them a little too much. I would prefer to have a 2D really well illustrated portrait of the character though for cutscenes, if that's how it's gonna be. But ultimately 3D models are fine. Well, from Crazy BLT to Crazy Bread, what cameo music do you want to hear in game? The amiibo music choices from Three Houses could have been better in your opinion. I think the one we already heard a few of them, or a lot of them, honestly. Ike's is really good. It's a mashup of The Devoted and Eternal Bonds, or whatever it's called. Incredible mashup, and I'm excited to hear that one again. Thoughts on what Engage's difficulty should be like? I prefer a challenge in my Fire Emblem game. I don't want to just be able to point and click. I don't want a point and click adventure. I want to be able to really focus and have to think. So, yeah, I hope it's difficult. How do you think classes will be balanced? Will flyers rule the game once more? I think the emphasis on classes is going to be less here than it ever has been. I think it's going to be more about the emblem ring and your secondary class modifier type thing. So we saw that like Diamond has the backup thing, or like Frame as a monk she's a monk / key adept, right? I think that key adept, along with what ring you equip, is going to be more important than classes. But yeah, flyers are, depending on how powerful enemies are, and if it's viable to like push forward farther into enemy territory with your flyers, that kind of determines how much better they are than everyone else. But yeah, flyers are always good. So to be honest, it's probably going to still be like flyer ruled. That's just how Fire Emblem works. But I don't know. Maybe Cavalry make a comeback as well. They weren't as good in Three Houses, but they were good, like incredibly good in like Path of Radiance, right? So I hope that flyers aren't like overwhelmingly the best in the game, but that, again, that's been pretty standard. So there's chances are that's what's going to happen. All right, Saf Crine. Sorry if I say your name wrong. A few questions. Will there be a lot of replay value? Most Fire Emblem games do have a lot of replay value, especially the ones that have come out post Awakening and past that. So I think so, yes. Will archers be good? Archers have been really good for a couple entries now. They were pretty good. They were honestly pretty good in Fates. They were honestly really good in Echoes. Incredible in Three Houses. The best they've ever been. So yeah, I imagine we'll continue the trend of archers being good. Don't really know how they will be yet. Are you pleased with the map design so far? Haven't seen enough. And how do you feel about old maps returning? I don't like some of the choices that they made for the old maps returning, but some of them are really good. Like having 313 from Radiant Dawn be Micaiah's map is perfect. That's one of her like key moments in the story. Having IXB chapter 8 is very fitting. You know, that's kind of a huge character moment for him. The one from Thracia is the Reinhardt chapter. For some reason, the number is escaping me right now. But that chapter totally fits. But then it's like, I don't know, it's not like Sacred Stone's endgame, so it's like, I guess. But I don't have much of a tie into that. All I'm saying is that I think some are really good picks, and maybe some other ones are less interesting. All right. With all the mechanics in this game, do you think it will be newcomer friendly? Yeah, I'm sure it will be. Especially if you play on the like normal. You'll play on the lowest difficulty. I'm sure it'll introduce you well to all the mechanics. Do you think it will sell more than 3 houses? Do you think it will be better than 3 houses? Better is, I think it'll be different, really different from 3 houses. And I think it'll be so different that it's going to be hard to compare them. Do you think it'll sell more? I have no idea. That's not something I really look into. If I had to guess, yes. Because Fire Emblem is only more and more popular these days. All right, thanks for all your questions there. Weber78, thoughts on the different infantry class types, backup, covert, key adept, etc. Do you think this will make infantry units better than mounted and flying ones, as normally in 3 houses you only use infantry units for certain skills like Fierce Iron Fist or Hunter's Volley, as flying and mounted units are a direct upgrade in most cases besides those? Also, thoughts on how this will affect armored units. They're pretty bad in 3 houses, and in this game they don't get a class type that does anything unlike other grounded units, to my knowledge. So yeah, actually the armored units, they're immune to breaks. So that's a really big thing. That's really cool and a big thing. The whole backup, covert, key adept, all that stuff, I don't think it's going to make the infantry like better than flyers or anything, but it does give them a cool niche that I'm excited to use. But yeah, armor is more kind of like another one of these types than like just something they just didn't get. So armor is actually pretty good with the avoiding breaks. All right, Nick's mid-self. How long do you think broken status would last if a unit was hit by a brawler unit? Probably the same as every other class. I honestly don't know. My question is from Aiden Goodwin. How can they make the game challenging when the emblem rings look so broken? Giving enemies access to emblem rings and letting them use the engage mechanic. I think that's going to be a thing, because we've already seen the enemy rings be red. I mean, like the rings turn red and be bad guy rings, right? So they'll have access to the rings and get to use those skills as well. But I think the bigger thing is just as long as the maps have like, if enemy placement prevents you from warping all over the place and just pushing forward as hard as you can, then that's going to be enough, I think, to keep the emblem rings at bay. Also, if they limit the amount of times you can use the emblem ring abilities and stuff in a map, that would do it too, right? And we know you can't just be engaged all the time. So, all right. Next we have Aliester or Leopold. How would you like the legendary weapons to be handled in Engage? Not tied to the rings. The last game with no durability was Fates, and those legendary weapons were terrible. Yeah, Fates were dumb. The S-rank weapons in Fates were silly gooses. But I think in Engage, I think they are just going to be tied to ranks. I don't really foresee any legendary weapons besides, like, I think Alir will probably get some super Omega sword, or they have a sword that will transform into some super Omega sword, like Crom's Falchion and Corrin's Yado. I think for the most part, it's going to be tied to the ranks. And that's what I want. I think that'd be good. I think that'd be a nice change of pace. From Just. If you had to choose between a good story with bad gameplay or a bad story with good gameplay and mediocre story and gameplay, which would you prefer Engage to have? If I had to choose between those options, I'll take the worst story ever if the gameplay is insane. I just want good gameplay. The story is ancillary for me. I want the gameplay to be incredible. If I had to guess, though, it's probably going to be like a middling, probably be a middling story with good gameplay. But I want it to, like, if I had to pick one, I'll always take good gameplay. Scott Lest says, which of the 4 nations of Engage do you find the most interesting, and which do you find the least interesting, and why? I find Brodia to be the most interesting because I think I just like all the character designs from there. I haven't seen a single one from Brodia that I've been like, I think they're all pretty dope. And the one I'm least interested in is probably is it called Ferenia or whatever? I don't know, the flower people, Alfred and Saline, however you say her name. I think that's how you say her name, Saline, not Celine. Saline, as in like the fluid that you get in an IV. Goofy stuff, man. But yeah, I think that's the least interesting one to me, and the most interesting is definitely Brodia. All right. Felipe Rao. If you were to design a Fire Emblem game, what would be the gimmick of your game and why? The gimmick of my game. The gimmick of my game. I really like Parrot. I want Parrot back. I think it was really, in Awakening it was broken, but in Fates it was a really fun mechanic, and they gave it to enemies and stuff, which was good. Parrot would be fun. Bring Parrot back. I can't think of any of my own personal ideas or gimmicks off the top of my head. I'm not creative enough for that right now. I'll be honest. I'm too tired. All right. James Wittock. Or Wittick. It's probably Wittick. What are your realistic hopes and your unrealistic hopes for the custom defense map thing? Unrealistic hopes is that the custom defense map thing turns into PvP that you can play with anyone in the world. Online PvP would be insane. That's my unrealistic hope. My realistic hope is that it's going to be better than Aether raids in Heroes, and that it's going to, the map customization is going to be deeper, and you're going to actually be able to make fun little challenges and puzzles for people. Hopefully. We don't know, though. Hopefully that's my realistic hope, that you're going to be able to make really interesting maps rather than just kind of weird little small battlefields. All right. Mickey Sayahara. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I botched your name so bad. In your opinion, who has the best character design and who has the worst? My favorite so far is Lapis. I've mentioned that. I love her design is like understated enough to be like, I don't know. It's like, it's fun without being too over the top. And it's kind of, recently found out some stuff about her personality, how she's just kind of a chill, down to earth person. That's a lot for me. That's really cool. I like that in a character. That's like a reason why I like Ash's character as much as I do, because he's kind of just like a normal dude. I also like Diamond a lot. He looks really cool fantasy design. The worst. There are some stinkers, man. I will admit there's some stinkers. I'm not a huge fan of Hortensia or Hortensia, however you say her name. She looks a little too much like a clown for my taste. Some people are really into it, but I'm not. The one that was they released information on is Panette, I think it was Panette was her name, with like the Dios de los Muertos stuff. I'm not a huge fan of that, but some people really like it. But most of the designs are fine. All right. King Spire. Do you think it's a smart move to go with the anniversary we're bringing old characters back thing when really they are trying to bring in new players like they did for Three Houses? Those new players might feel discouraged by the amount of required knowledge from old games. I mentioned this earlier. I don't think it's required knowledge. I think you're going to be able to play, engage, and enjoy Engage without having even touched a game before it. I don't think you're going to need that. If anything, it's just going to be cute little nods and stuff to moments from past games that people that have played them will enjoy, and the people who haven't played them will just be like, oh, whatever, and they'll just move on, or they won't care that much about it. I think it's going to be presented in a way that's not going to hurt the new player's experience, is what I'm saying. All right, Broker66. What will be the most missed feature from Three Houses, and why is it the Stride Gambit? Stride Gambit, just Gambits in general were really fun. I will miss Gambits a lot. They look like they're kind of making a return in some form with AoE attacks, like Override with Sigurd and Roy has one where he like does a big block of flames attack. It's like Blaze. But yeah, I'll miss Gambits in general. For sure. Gambits are super fun. And combat arts being a big focus. I like the combat arts being a huge focus in Three Houses. All right. Ebong at Sebong. What? Hello. Do you think a good story is necessary for a Fire Emblem game? No. Should good gameplay be prioritized over good story? Yes. Do you think there's a Fire Emblem game that coexists with both excellent gameplay and excellent story? Maybe Path of Radiance and maybe 3ACS 776. In your opinion, the closest would be the Telia Saga. Sure. Will weapon triangle advantages be too overpowered, says Eric Drell. No. I think the game's going to be balanced around it. And it's going to be the whole point of it. You know what I mean? I like that they're like making the weapon triangle kind of like a centralizing mechanic. I think it's going to be important. Overpowered, I think, is the wrong word to give it, though. I think it's just going to be really important to your strategy. Angie Padilla. With staves, or staves, sorry, I don't want to say staves. With staves returning, will we still see Faith, light-based magic? Will we see dark and black magic? Yes. If I had to guess, yeah, I think we will. I think light magic and dark magic are just like iconic to the series at this point, and I'd be sad if they didn't make some sort of reappearance. Paper Luigi. Genuine thoughts on the art style. I think it's overhated. I think people would like it more if they had the 2D artwork for characters in game. It is a little, VTubery and all that. I get that, but it's not awful. Gaijin Miami. Pretend this is a Fire Emblem 4. This is Fire Emblem 4 houses, and tell us which house you would join. Brodia. Although Solm has the best music that we've heard so far. The Solm music, the maps, the desert maps, sound baller. Tiffany the Bish. How long will we need to be in the monastery-like place? Talked about this before a little bit. Impossible to know, obviously, at this point, but hopefully not too much. Hopefully not too much. Because I'm more interested in the maps and stuff from a gameplay perspective, right? Although I think there's going to be some fun extracurricular things to do, like building your defense map thing for the Aether Raids type thing, the trial maps with friends. I think there's some good opportunity there. But all the other stuff like the working out and the cooking and all that stuff isn't for me. Kevin, favorite character design. I already kind of mentioned that. I like the Brodians a lot, so like Diamond and Lapis. Who's your waifu? My real wife, Maggie. Sorry to flex on you there. Sorry. Sorry, that was messed up. And Dodo with the final comment. This isn't so much a question, more so just a statement. I have a burning headache right now, and it hurts badly. I'm sorry, friend. Hope you feel better. Hope you feel better. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like the video, subscribe, and leave some more questions in the comments. Maybe I'll answer some if there's anything worth, anything that I have real, genuine thoughts on. And make sure to tune into tonight's stream. We're Iron Manning 3 houses, and it's going very well. It's going really well. I'm having a lot of fun. All right, thanks, guys.